What's going on with Alpine? They've had one car on sale since 2018, the A110, with only a second model appearing a couple of months ago, and that's a rebadged Renault 5. In 6 years, they've only sold 19,000 cars, and it's not like they're selling $1 million exotic Bugattis. The A110 is sold as a relatively affordable sports car. Alpine's parent Renault has poured a lot of cash into the brand and even more into sponsoring a Formula One team and many other motorsports championships, and all with little to show for it. On the face of it, it seems nonsensical, money thrown down the drain. And that was my opinion until I looked a little into Alpine's strategy. So just what's going on? What are its chances of success with a brand that's hemorrhaging money? And will Renault wind it up before the strategy has a chance to play out? Wherever you look, Alpine isn't doing well. Renault rebranded their Formula One team with the Alpine brand in 2021, and since then the team has continued in the middle pack with rare sparks of brilliance. They haven't challenged the frontrunners despite continually saying, we've got a plan to rebuild and don't worry, we'll be up at the front in a couple of years or so. Let's hope the ugly Pepto-Bismol pink livery we've had to endure on their cars is paying the bills, because having Alpine as a title sponsor means missing out on a lot of sponsorship money. Main sponsorships aren't cheap. Oracle's paying $100 million a year to be on Red Bull's cars. And it's not certain Renault will own the team much longer. They're not making a new engine in 2026, with the team rumoured to be taking the Mercedes power unit. There are also whispers that Renault is gearing up to sell the team, which could mean no more Alpine sponsorship. But having said that, Renault and Alpine know that in the age of the cost cap and drive to survive, Formula One teams have a lot of value and will do so for the foreseeable future. So it's not like they need to rush into a sale. And right now their main focus to promote Alpine is through motorsports. So giving up the sponsorship rights before the Alpine brand is established wouldn't make much sense. Alpine are paying to compete in other motorsport series as well. They're at the top level of the Le Mans series, and spoiler alert, both cars retired from the 2024 race at Le Mans. They're rallying the A110 and competing in the European GT4 series, again without much to show for it. Alpine have a presence in esports, and there's an Alpine Academy to train young drivers that must be costing a pretty penny. According to Alpine themselves, they've invested almost $500 million between 2018 and 2023 in motorsports, and I presume that doesn't include inheriting the Formula One team from Renault. Clearly, Alpine needs someone like Jean Todt, who revolutionised motorsports for Peugeot in the 1980s. That led to victories and, more importantly, success in the showroom with hot versions of the 205. But if you listen to Alpine's marketing team, everything's going according to plan. They have one of the most popular sports cars in France, and there's a 7-month waiting list. But Alpine only sold 4,328 cars in 2023 from 140 dealers, and Simple Division shows that the average dealer sold only 31 cars in a year, or less than 3 cars a month. That can't be good for dealer profits. You would think that with figures like this that the A110 would be a bit of a stinker, but it's actually quite an amazing car, and the motoring press have given it rave reviews. James May has one in his personal collection, calling it a cut-price Porsche 911. It's lightweight with great handling and fast acceleration. What's not to like? But get it while you can. Alpine won't be selling it with a petrol engine after 2026. It's been joined by the Renault 5 EV, the Alpine A290. It seems a nice car, but for a performance brand, the car seems a bit lackluster. I can beat the 0 to 60 time of 6.4 seconds in my bog standard Tesla Model 3, and that's the top of the range A290 Premier Edition. In fact, you could equal that time in a Nissan Leaf. The top speed is a rather wimpy 105 miles an hour. If you drive at normal speed, you'll get 240 miles out of the battery, which again is nothing to write home about. This is coming from Alpine, who say that their DNA, their raison d'etre, so to speak, is racing and motorsport. The A290 might be a fun car, but how will it stack up against the competition, and how practical will it be on a day-to-day basis? It's been 6 years since the A110 appeared on the scene, and Alpine still aren't selling their cars outside of Europe. Okay, that's not quite true. They sold 289 cars in Japan in 2023 and 5 of them in the Africa Middle East market, but that's not exactly taking the world by storm. That's limiting their sales at a time when they're spending a lot on their advertising budget on global Formula One sponsorship, and any good marketing person will tell you that that's wasted money. But here's why I think they're doing it. Alpine say that they're charting their own unique brand path, but they're clearly attempting to build a new premium sports car brand to rival Porsche. That's why they've turned their back on the Renault Sport brand and decided to create something completely separate. And in fact, in their marketing material, Alpine call themselves a passion-driven specialty brand that encompasses both traditional premium and luxury car makers. By 2030, they'll have a 7-model range that includes a C-Class crossover in 2025, something the size of a Volkswagen ID.4, a D or E-Class crossover the size of a Porsche Macan or Cayenne, a new A110, a roadster version of the A110, and an all-new A310, which was a 1970s Grand Tourer. By 2026, they expect to expand into the US market and further into the global market. By 2030, they hope to have $8 billion in revenue. The Renault brand has been pushed to small car sales with very low margins, selling Twingos and Clios. They're almost becoming like their Dacia brand. Alpine has the potential for much higher profit margins. The strategy seems to be to use the impending shift to EVs as a way to leapfrog the competition. Every one of those cars will be an EV, maybe with a hydrogen-powered engine on some models to assist them, and many will use a new Alpine EV platform that's being developed. That's more investment, which costs more money, but surprisingly, Alpine say that they expect to break even by 2026. It's also interesting to note that Alpine expect to put the batteries, that is the blue parts in this picture, in the front and rear on some vehicles, not underneath the driver like in other EVs. Alpine's choice would produce a car that would have more problems changing direction, which is an odd choice for a brand so focused on driving hard and motorsports. Getting €8 billion in revenue by 2030 would be a good start. It's about a fifth of Porsche's 2023 revenue. The problem is where they're starting from today. As I said before, Alpine sold 4,328 cars in 2023. All of them were A110s, which are selling on their website today for between €76,000 and €106,000. Renault says 3/4 of the cars sold were top-of-the-range versions, so as they don't split out Alpine's revenue in their finances, let's be generous and presume that they're selling each car for €106,000. That means a total revenue for 2023 of €458 million, let's call it €500 million. Going from €500 million to €8 billion in 7 years is a pretty gutsy call given Alpine's growth up until now has been fairly tepid, despite having a great car and lots of publicity. If Alpine's strategy pays off, they'll have pulled off a meteoric rebirth of a classic sports brand into a major revenue earner. But this is based on a lot of assumptions. Firstly, that the world wants the type of electric sports car that they're going to produce. I'd argue that the first offering, the A290, isn't anything special, and the type of people who buy high-performance sports cars seem to want an internal combustion soundtrack to go with it rather than something with the gentle whine of a milk float. It's something Alpine's own management acknowledges, which is why they're looking into the possibility of hydrogen engines. They're also betting on this 16-fold increase in revenue in 7 years. Between 2022 and 2023, sales grew 22%. That's based on one model, and by 2030 they'll have 7, but still, that's an awful lot of growth to expect given a pretty low starting point. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but again, it's a bold bet. I feel before Alpine can hit their growth targets, they need to understand why sales of their popular car are so low. Yes, Alpine say that they have a 7-month waiting list, but it would seem nonsensical to limit your sales like this. A for-profit company should just increase capacity, surely. Porsche sold over 100,000 cars in Europe in 2023 compared to Alpine's 4,328. So just why aren't they selling more cars, and also why aren't they winning at motorsports? Of course, these two questions may be linked, and you would hope that parent Renault have been asking them. According to Alpine, motorsports are critical to their success, or pivotal to their business model as it says on this slide. But it's hard to win new customers if you're losing on the racetrack. Alpine is betting big on electric sports cars. A European directive states that car makers that sell more than 1,000 cars a year in Europe need to only sell electric vehicles after 2035. That means that Alpine will only have a few years head start on the likes of Porsche. But before then, a sports car fan's going to want an electric sports car that doesn't have an internal combustion soundtrack, and it also can't go more than a few laps on a racetrack before it needs a full charge that could take an hour or more even to charge, even if that track has a fast charger. And that 2035 ban on EVs only applies to Europe. There's no such ban on Porsche selling internal combustion engine cars in many US states, for example, or the Middle East, both highly lucrative markets. The Alpine experiment will continue while there's a political will at Renault to make it succeed, and there's enough cash in Renault to help fund it. If they break even by 2026 as expected, they could be self-funding and the future could be bright. But if they miss their targets or Renault's finances hit the rocks, the Alpine brand could be the first thing on the chopping block. There's another couple of videos on the right that you might be interested in. The first one's about Renault's budget division, Dacia, and there's also a video talking about the new Renault 5 Alpine A290. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.